Anyone who knows anything about me knows that I'm a big fan of rhythm games. I don't think I've done a very good job of keeping that under wraps. And as a big fan of rhythm games, I have unsurprisingly played a lot of them. I've swapped spit with everything from Guitar Hero and Just Dance to Guitar Hero 2 and Just Dance 2. That's not a lot of games. And it's also a lie. I've played indies, retros, arcade exclusives, mobile games. I've even imported a few Japan exclusives. If you can even think of a rhythm game, I probably haven't played it. There's a lot out there. But I have played a lot of games, like maybe too many, actually. And I've noticed something kind of interesting. Most rhythm games can essentially be boiled down to the exact same gameplay loop. A series of symbols appear on screen in time with the music, and the player needs to perform each symbol's corresponding input in time with the music and visuals. Now that's not to say that every rhythm game is exactly the same. If anything, every rhythm game I've played has done a lot visually, aesthetically, musically, and mechanically to differentiate itself from the rest of the genre. And games like DDR, Guitar Hero, Beat Saber, Taiko, Chrono Circle, and Groove Coaster have invented entirely unique control schemes that really allow them to set themselves apart from the competition. But at the end of the day, symbol move button press. Not that I'm complaining. If anything, this gameplay loop is exactly why I love rhythm games so much. But the idea of a rhythm game is such a versatile concept with near infinite possibilities that it's honestly kind of a shame how little most devs have done to step away from the genre's roots back in 1996. But fortunately, it's starting to seem like I'm not the only person who feels this way. Probably the single most famous example of a rhythm game getting a little quirky with it is Rhythm Heaven. Together now. Developed and published by Nintendo, because of course they made the list. They're always doing weird shit. Rhythm Heaven is a little difficult to explain. It's essentially a collection of short rhythm-based minigames that each present a unique beat that you need to recognize, learn, and maintain through a series of visual and audio cues. The list of minigames includes, but is not limited to, baseball, boxing, flexing, building robots, spinning office chairs, monkeys. I told you it was going to be hard to explain. The minigames are all very goofy and charming and creative, and there's a lot of them, and it does feel really satisfying to maintain each minigame's unique rhythm. This series is a goldmine of good ideas, and it is a damn shame that so few people have actually played these games, and that physical copies just keep getting more expensive. But fortunately, we're finally getting a new one sometime next year, and it looks great. But if you just can't wait, well, a series this good is always going to inspire a couple of spiritual successors. For example, Melatonin is one of my all-time favorite games. Something I'm sure you can tell just by looking at me. Its core gameplay takes heavy inspiration from Rhythm Heaven, but with this peaceful, dreamlike aesthetic, a relatively cohesive narrative, at least in comparison to the games that inspired it, a boatload of crazy new ideas, a soft, comfortable art style, and this gorgeous purple filter. And it all comes together to produce a wonderfully cozy game. Melatonin is an all-around incredible experience, and I cannot recommend it enough. The funny thing is, I initially went into this game hoping that it would satisfy my craving for a new Rhythm Heaven, but I just ended up wanting another Melatonin too. I'm greedy like that. But if games like Rhythm Heaven and Melatonin aren't really your style, don't worry, we can get crazier. Crypt of the Necrodancer, bear with me, I only own the Zelda one, is an indie action-adventure roguelite where everything happens on the beat. You move on the beat, attack on the beat, dodge enemies, collect items, solve puzzles on the beat, and everyone else does the same thing. Miss a beat or try to do anything a little too late or a little too early, and you'd better get used to dying over and over and over, and starting over every single time. It is a great idea, executed so well that Nintendo lent the game's developers access to the Zelda IP to make Crypt of the Necrodancer, Cadence of Hyrule. And that game is awesome, and also, again, the only Necrodancer game I actually own. If you're a big fan of rhythm games, or roguelites, or even if you just need a little extra Zelda in your life, you can't go wrong with the Necrodancer games. Also, apparently Hatsune Miku is in this game, because I just can't seem to escape her. But this is, of course, far from the only way to put rhythm into an action game. Hi-Fi Rush was 2023's first real surprise hit. The game is a hack-and-slash platforming rhythm game that came out of nowhere and immediately took the gaming world by storm. And frankly, I don't think that anyone was surprised that Hi-Fi Rush got the attention it did. It's a game that looks like this and plays like this. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. Every single thing on your screen is indeed moving to the beat. There is a downright insane level of detail, polish, and intent present in every frame of this game's animation. And it is all designed in service of providing the player with visual indicators that help them interact with the game's core mechanic. You see, much like in Crypt of the Necrodancer, Hi-Fi Rush is a game where the combat is tied directly to the music. You're rewarded for attacking on the beat and punished for falling off of it. Actions like movement and platforming aren't tied to the music as directly as they might be in other similar games, but the enemies and environments still do a great job of encouraging the player to maintain a consistent rhythm, even in moments where it's mostly optional. The marriage between the hack and slash and rhythm game genres was a genius idea that works really well and resulted in some very intuitive and satisfying gameplay that manages to drastically elevate what would otherwise still be a really good game. Hack and slashes and beat 'em ups already had sort of a rhythm to them, so it's not really all that surprising that Hi-Fi Rush works so well, but it is a shock that it took this long for someone to actually make a game like this, or at the very least, make one that actually caught people's attention. Either way, Hi-Fi Rush is a very impressive game made by a very talented team, and I cannot wait to see what they do next now that they've been saved from the purgatory of Xbox's ever-growing graveyard of murdered dev teams. BPM, Bullets Per Minute, sick name by the way, is a fast-paced, movement-heavy, first-person boomer shooter indie game roguelite. Whoa there, cowboy. Why don't you slow down a little and save some buzzwords for the rest of us? That takes heavy inspiration from old-school boomer shooters like Doom and Quake. Mostly Quake. In BPM, much like the last two games we talked about, bear with me here, I promise this is the last one like this. Everything you do is done on the beat. Shooting, reloading, dodging, jumping, I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. It may use the same core mechanic as other games we've talked about today, but the unique combination of first-person shooter and rhythm game does do a lot to set BPM apart from its action game counterparts. Primarily in terms of how fucking sick it feels to blast hordes of demons to bits to the tune of rock music while the sound of your own gunfire replaces the percussion in the game's genuinely phenomenal soundtrack. It actually kind of reminds me of those action movie edits where the gunshots introduce the music. So if you like those or are just a fan of games that look, sound, and feel sick as fuck, BPM might just be PM the game for you. No, I'm gonna leave that one in, that's funny. Everhood is a rhythm-focused action RPG with bullet hell elements that takes heavy, obvious, undeniable inspiration from Undertale, visually, tonally, and comedically, all while still managing to drastically set itself apart from its inspiration in some very impressive ways. Primarily with its story, its character designs, its lore, some of its more ambitious visual effects, and especially its gameplay. Everhood's combat system is kind of a twist on the more traditional rhythm game format. Every character in the game has a unique song, and they spawn a series of attacks that correspond with the music and descend upon the player. Does this visual setup look familiar? That's right, it's Fortnite! But rather than having the player respond to each attack with corresponding inputs like in Guitar Hero or pop-in music, Everhood sees the player frantically dodging, reflecting, and absorbing individual attacks in the hopes of surviving to the end of the song, or in some instances, ending it early. The one issue I have with this game is that the attacks appear on the beat, but you don't interact with them in time with the music, which is kind of clunky, and can end up making Everhood feel less like a rhythm game and more like a traditional bullet hell, which honestly isn't the worst thing in the world, but considering the fact that most people are going to go into this game expecting the rhythm aspect to be at the forefront of the gameplay, it is still a pretty big problem. But despite that, the game is still a lot of fun, and with a core mechanic this creative, a story this good, and a world this interesting, I am willing to overlook that issue. I like this game. Wait, there's a sequel? But of course, games like these aren't just Rhythm Heaven or Combat. There are some other rhythm game options out there, such as Headbangers Rhythm Royale is a game that I no longer have access to, but more importantly, it is a rhythm game battle royale where you compete against 29 other players in a series of rhythm-based minigames to see who amongst you will be crowned the world's most rhythmic pigeon, I guess? It's a fun game, but it doesn't have a ton of replay value, and I, as well as most of its player base, fell off of it pretty quickly, and then it got removed from Game Pass, so now I can't even record my own footage for it. That being said, I did have a lot of fun with the game back when I was actually playing it. It's cute and silly, and the minigames do showcase a lot of unique and creative ideas, and if nothing else, Headbangers has at least proven once again that literally any genre can be turned into a battle royale, which has finally given me the courage to announce my new game, 100 Classic Books versus Reading Royale. Does that sound fun? Does this sound like a fun game to you? Would you pay money for this game? Please answer honestly. I need money so bad right now. But you know what game actually is really fun? Rhythm Thief. Fun fact about this game, Sega made it. Fun fact about me, I did not include it in my video about Sega rhythm games because I hadn't played it yet. Fun fact about my comment section, yeah, consider this my redemption arc. Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure is, get this, a point-and-click adventure rhythm game, and it's very cool. The gameplay definitely falls more on the Simon Says side of the rhythm game spectrum, which can make it feel a lot more like a traditional rhythm game, and in a lot of ways it really kind of is, but it's the way that the more traditional gameplay is presented that really turns this game into something special. The gameplay of Rhythm Thief is made up of a variety of rhythm-themed challenges that each use creative visuals and theming to present drastically different takes on what is ultimately a very simple concept. In one level, it's a stealth game, then it's a puzzle game, then it's a Simon Says, then it's an auto-running platformer. Truly, the possibilities are endless. Well, actually, those are like the only 4 styles I've seen so far, so I guess right now the possibilities are 4. As of the making of this video, I'm still very early into this game, and I'm also playing like 3 others right now, but I'm enjoying it a lot so far. And even if I haven't finished the game yet, well, I wasn't gonna make the same mistake twice. And ending it all with what is quite possibly my all-time favorite unusual rhythm game. Do you guys remember Thumper? Thumper is an intense, brutal, fast-paced, borderline psychedelic experience that its own dev team has lovingly referred to as a part of a unique subgenre they call rhythm violence. And not only is that the coolest thing I have ever heard, I am not a very good listener, but it's also the perfect descriptor for a game that plays and sounds like this. Needless to say, it is a very intense game. You play as a big metal beetle and create music by violently slamming yourself against walls, recklessly crashing through barriers, and aggressively slamming your body into the ground. And then, at the end of each set of levels, you have to fight what I can only assume is supposed to be some sort of eldritch god. And as eldritch gods often do, they all look really fucking cool. Thumper is undoubtedly one of the coolest games I have ever played. It is such a refreshing and creative take on a genre that is becoming increasingly full of refreshing and creative takes, and it blew my mind when I first played it. This was actually one of the first rhythm games I ever played, and also one of the first indie titles I ever interacted with, and even after all this time, it still manages to be one of my all-time favorite reimaginings of the rhythm game genre. And that makes 9 because I was too lazy to do 10. I just love this kind of weird reinvention of, well, really any genre, but rhythm games especially. And I find myself stumbling across these kinds of rhythm games basically on accident all the time. This is, of course, far from every game in this weird little niche. Space Channel 5 is a Simon Says game, Magical Beat is a falling block puzzle game, Muse Dash is an auto runner. I've heard Rhythm Doctor get compared to Rhythm Heaven a few times. Fitness Boxing is kind of a rhythm game, I mean Miku's in that one too. And then I just have no idea what Patapon is supposed to be. And believe it or not, that's still only scratching the surface. Despite the relative nicheness of the concept, there are still dozens upon dozens of games that fit under this umbrella. And someday, I'm gonna play them all.